He thought he was flying toward the moon. That's how it felt when he said, "I do." Like something sacred, like he was stepping into safety, into the home, into arms that would finally stay. But he wasn't flying to the moon. He was flying toward a flame. And like every man who mistook fantasy for reality, he didn't see the fire until he was already burning. This is not a bitter tale. This is not a warning against love. This is a quiet look at the marriage trap. Not the institution, but the illusion. Because for many men, what they imagined marriage would be, it is nothing like what it became. And if you're a man who has ever wondered, how did something so beautiful become so heavy? Stay with me. Because what follows isn't blame. It's clarity. It's a reflection. It's what most men wish they knew before they said yes. Most men don't get married for control. They don't do it to check a box or show off. They do it because they want peace. They want a woman who understands them. They want someone to come home to. Someone who doesn't ask them to perform, fix, or prove their worth every day. They don't want to win. They want to rest. Marriage, in their mind, it is the reward for surviving the chaos of dating. It's the place where masks come off, where acceptance begins. But here's what no one tells you. When a man walks into marriage hoping to be understood, he often finds himself explaining more than ever. When he longs to be appreciated, he's met with critiques, masked as suggestions. When he hopes for closeness, he finds negotiations. He thought marriage would be the end of the race. But in many cases, it's the starting line of a much harder one. Because the fantasy isn't hers, it's his. He imagined that love would soften the world. That partnership would ease the load. That marriage would finally permit him to breathe. And so, he let down his armor. He stopped chasing. He got comfortable. But what he didn't realize was this. In her mind, that's when he stopped trying. And that's when everything changed. This is the moment most men don't talk about. Not with their friends. Not with their father. Not even with themselves. It's the moment when the marriage they imagined starts to crash into the marriage they're in. At first it's subtle. She doesn't laugh at his jokes the way she used to. She sighs when he forgets something small. She starts finishing his sentences. Not with curiosity, but with correction. And he tells himself, it's just stress. It's just routine. It'll pass. But slowly, what used to be softness turns sharp. He used to feel chosen. Now he feels evaluated. He used to feel needed. Now he feels managed. The woman who once marveled at his strength now questions his decision. The man who once felt safe beside her now walks on eggshells. And here's what makes it even harder. He doesn't know how to explain it, because she hasn't done anything wrong. She's not cruel. She's not unfaithful. She's still there. But something invisible has changed. She sees him less as a man, and more as a list of what's missing. And he sees himself not as a partner, but as someone quietly falling short every day. This is the collision, not with a person, but with reality. The reality that no amount of providing, protecting, or proving can guarantee peace in a relationship where the fantasy has silently expired. And when he brings it up, she says he's too sensitive, too withdrawn, too emotionally distant. He starts to doubt himself. Maybe he is overreacting. Maybe this is what real love looks like. Messy, hard, and full of misunderstanding. But deep down, something aches. He doesn't miss dating. He doesn't want to cheat. He's not looking for another woman. He just misses being seen, being admired, being understood without a performance, being trusted to lead without being corrected. And that's when the most dangerous shift happens. It begins to go quiet. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in resignation. He shows up. He pays the bills. He plays the role. But something inside detaches, because he's realized he's not in a marriage. He's in a job interview, one that never ends. And slowly, quietly, without a word, he starts to disappear. It doesn't end with shouting. There's no big fight, no dramatic betrayal, just a quiet, daily erosion. This is what most people don't understand about the end of love. It doesn't always explode. Sometimes it just fades. He still brings her coffee. She still reminds him to take his vitamins. They still smile at the neighbors, still show up to family dinners. But underneath it all, there's a silence that no one wants to name. Not the kind of silence you rest in, the kind you get lost in, They talk about the kids, the bills, the calendar, but they don't talk about each other. He stopped sharing what really weighs on him. She's stopped asking. They lie in the same bed, but feel 1,000 miles apart. He remembers a time when just one look from her made him feel alive. Now, he's lucky if she looks up from her phone. And yet, he stays. Not because he's happy, not because he's hopeful, but because he's tired of starting over, tired of explaining himself, tired of trying to make something work that quietly decided to stop working long ago. He convinces himself, this is just what long-term love looks like. But it doesn't feel like love. It feels like endurance. And this is the part that breaks him most. No one sees it. To the outside world, they look fine, functional, even lucky. But inside, he feels like a ghost in his own life. And yet, he doesn't leave. Because part of him still remembers the man he used to be, the man who believed in forever. And part of him still holds out hope that maybe, if he waits long enough, she'll reach for him again. She'll see him again. She'll need him again. But that moment never comes. So he learns how to live with the ache. He becomes an expert in pretending. And this quiet disappointment, is what wears him down more than any heartbreak ever could. Because when a man chooses to stay in a life where he no longer feels alive, that's not weakness. That's the cost of believing in a dream that no longer believes in him. It usually starts with something small. A morning walk that takes a little longer than usual. A book left half-read for years, picked up again. A weekend alone. That doesn't feel lonely. And for the first time in a long time, he feels something unexpected. His own breath. Not rushed. Not clipped by conversation or obligation. Just still. Present. His. He starts to realize he's been disappearing in plain sight. That somewhere along the way, he stopped asking himself what he wanted, what he believed, what he loved. Not because he was weak, but because he was trying to be good. A good husband, a good provider, a good man. But now he's beginning to wonder, what if being good cost him his soul? He doesn't feel angry. He's not planning revenge. He's just waking up to the truth, to the silence, to the small voice inside him that never left, only got quieter. That voice starts asking, what do I value? What kind of man do I want to be now? If I had one more chance at peace, would I take it? It's not about leaving. It's about remembering. He remembers the version of himself who used to laugh, who used to create, who used to feel life in his chest, not just carry it on his back. And maybe for the first time in years, he doesn't blame her anymore. She was chasing her version of happiness, and so was he. But they were following two different maps, and no one stopped to compare them. That realization doesn't hurt. It heals. Because awakening isn't about regret. It's about reclaiming. And in that awakening, he doesn't need anyone to save him. He just needs to stop abandoning himself. He doesn't need noise. He doesn't need a new woman. He needs stillness. To rebuild. To come home to himself. And if that means redefining what love looks like, what masculinity feels like, what life can be beyond the script he inherited, then so be it. Because sometimes, the most powerful man in the room is the one who chose silence over pretending. At some point, every man stands at a crossroads. He can keep performing, keep pretending, keep holding together a picture of life that no longer reflects the truth. Or he can choose something far harder, far braver, far more honest. He can choose to pause, not run, not abandon, not escape. Just pause, long enough to ask, am I still in this marriage because I love her? Or because I don't know who I am without her? Am I staying for peace? Or because I fear the cost of freedom? That question, it's not about divorce. It's not about leaving. It's about alignment. Because when a man finally stops asking, what does she want from me? And starts asking, what do I want for me? Everything changes. He stops needing permission to feel alive. He stops apologizing for wanting more than just duty. He starts defining love on his terms, not Hollywood's, not society's, not his father's. And sometimes, that love still includes her. But this time, he shows up as a man who isn't trying to prove anything. He's not performing. He's not pleading. He's not afraid of losing her. Because he's finally stopped losing himself. He listens differently. speaks slower, sets boundaries not from anger but from clarity. And if she meets him there, not above him, not beneath him, but with him, then something new can be built. But if she doesn't, if she needs the old version of him to stay comfortable, if she resists his evolution, then he knows. Peace is not something he'll beg for, it's something he'll protect. Because the greatest mistake a man can make is thinking that staying asleep is noble. That silence equals strength. That disappearing is how you keep the family together. The strongest men are not the ones who endure quietly. They're the ones who wake up and refuse to go back to sleep. They walk the harder road, the road of honesty, of presence, of starting over, if that's what truth requires. So if you're a man sitting in the quiet right now, wondering if you're broken for feeling this way, you're not. You're just being invited to stop surviving your life and start living it again. And whatever choice you make next, make sure it's made with eyes wide open and soul fully intact, because no woman, no vow, no institution is worth the cost of forgetting who you are.